So, we've been talking about it for a while now, but it looks like TikTok is finally going to get banned in the United States. That's right, the TikTok ban passed the Senate the other day and was signed into law by Biden yesterday, meaning that if the Chinese government-owned ByteDance doesn't sell their ownership in TikTok, it'll be banned in 9 months to a year. Yeah, I know that sounds like an annoyingly long timeline, but there are reasons for it, some good, some bad. Today, let's talk about what the TikTok ban actually means and how TikTok can avoid it. First, let's go over why TikTok is getting banned. Basically, everybody knows that TikTok is incredibly popular with pretty much everyone under 25. From kids to young adults, TikTok is probably the most popular app out there, and that scares the government. It should probably scare you too, especially if you're more technically literate than most members of the US Congress, because since its launch, TikTok has been controversial because it's owned in part by the Chinese government through the company ByteDance. Yeah, you know, just a totalitarian, evil communist government with a history of human rights violations and a state that the United States is closest to war with on the entire world stage, that Chinese government. It's not hard to understand why our government is afraid of the communist government of China having undue influence over our youth. And once they figured out how bad that could be, it was only a matter of time before they enacted a ban. It's actually funny though, because when the bill was before the House of Representatives, TikTok sent out push notifications to their users, telling them to contact their congressman, leading to hundreds of calls from irate children to their federal representatives, which probably wasn't the best tactic for TikTok to take, since they were accused of having undue influence over American kids, and getting American kids to flood all the phone lines of their government representatives probably proved to more than one congressman who was on the fence that the threat that TikTok poses is real. Imagine the influence you have to have over a kid to get them to care about politics. That's basically impossible. So anyway, the bill passed the House a while back. The Senate held off on passing it for a long time though. As far as I can tell, they did that for two reasons. The first being they wanted to lump it into a news cycle that has them giving more funding for Ukraine and Israel so that they could frame it as a national security thing. The second being because the Democrats had put significant effort into making an effective system to use TikTok to entice voters, which was all going to go to waste once the bill went through. Considering this election is shaping up to be difficult for the Democrats because, well, Biden can barely move and it's hard to get young voters excited to vote for someone that was around during the time of the dinosaurs, they really didn't want TikTok to go away until after the election. The version of the bill that passed the House had a 6-month limit before TikTok would get banned, putting it in place right before the November election. That wasn't good for the Democrats, so they were probably just going to wait until 6 months put it after the election, but instead they managed to convince enough members of Congress that they should extend the timeline so that TikTok has more time to avoid the ban, which we'll get to in a second, trying to hide their actual political motives by giving a different plausible reasoning for why they want an extension. Now that the ban won't take effect until after the election, Democrats don't care anymore because they have 4 more years to figure out a new grift. So it was passed in the Senate and Biden signed it first thing yesterday. Now, what exactly does the bill do? Since the problem with TikTok is that it's tied to the communist government of China, it's pretty simple. It requires TikTok to sell itself to an American or an American-owned company, removing the tendrils of communism from its ownership. Otherwise, American companies such as Apple or Google will no longer be able to offer the app on the App Store. Moreover, they'll be unable to provide any updates to anyone who has it installed already, and no one will be able to install it on a new device anymore. Considering that there's been a lot of accusations about how much information TikTok already collects on their users, and the uncertain reasoning and methods for that collection, yet people still use the app, maybe it won't faze people that TikTok will stop getting security updates, but it probably should. I wouldn't be too worried though, because unless TikTok has a lot of stuff to hide, I can't see any reason why they wouldn't sell. They have 9 months to sell themselves to an American, and the bill allows for an optional 90-day expansion of that timeline if TikTok is in the middle of a deal when that hits. Granted, TikTok seems to be signaling that they won't sell. In fact, it seems like they believe that the TikTok ban is unconstitutional and that they will try to sue and stop it. The CEO of TikTok said as much in a post yesterday.
Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts. The facts and the Constitution are on our side, and we expect to prevail again.
Now, this has worked for them before. Back when Trump tried to ban TikTok, they were able to stop it with legal challenges. But since this time it's a law passed by Congress and not an executive order, which was always a weak and tenuous thing to try to do, since the president actually has way less power than the average American believes, I think that it's likely that they'll have a harder time this time, now that it's been passed by Congress. Moreover, the amount of time that it will take for this to get through the legal system will undoubtedly take more than 9 months, meaning the law could go into effect while they are fighting it. I really don't think the future is bright for TikTok, assuming they don't sell. The question is this actually a good thing or not? Personally, in most cases, I have an issue with the government outright banning companies and products in general. I don't think that's really the purview of the federal government, which often outsteps its bounds and tramples on the state's rights to self-governance. But in this case, where it's an act to stop a foreign adversary from influencing Americans, that does kind of fall directly in the federal government's wheelhouse. It's their job to protect America and her citizens from all threats, foreign and domestic. So while I think that it's probably not a good precedent to set, I also know that there are countries out there that want to cause harm to the American homeland, and I don't think that they should have unfettered access to do as they wish. So I think that generally, as long as these kinds of laws are specifically restricted to only affect companies that have ownership who reside outside of the United States, it's probably a good thing that this bill was passed. Granted, I don't know that the moral questions regarding liberty and safety are going to be top of mind for most people that are upset about this. Most TikTok users are going to be upset because they're going to lose access to all their funny videos, more than they will care about the fundamental questions of government power. It will be interesting to see how big the backlash is here. I think that it's entirely possible that TikTok could use its influence to try to put pressure on lawmakers to rescind the law, whether or not their legal battle goes through. This really is the first kind of law like this, and one that's going to have a lot of impact on a lot of young people who don't actually understand the thought process behind it. So no one really knows how this will go. What will be interesting to see is if creators continue to post on TikTok like nothing is wrong. There are a lot of creators that have not just built audiences on TikTok, but have built entire businesses solely using TikTok to advertise and get their brand out there. Those people are set to lose pretty much everything if TikTok refuses to sell and the ban actually goes into place. So I would think that there will be a mass exodus of people from the platform now. What's the point of posting to a platform that's going to go away in a few months? It would make more sense to try and funnel your TikTok followers to other more stable American-owned platforms. It's possible that the exodus of creators might cause TikTok to start to fail even if they manage to somehow win in court. Granted, that would require the average TikTok user and creator to actually be up to date with current events, so it's unlikely. I do think that this will have effects that no one is expecting though, the least of which are the creators and business owners who will lose everything they've built up. Once the government starts doing something like this, they tend to keep on going. The government is very reluctant to give up power or limit their own power once they've expanded it, so there's a chance that they might misuse this power in the future. Luckily, this is limited because the bill specifically targets social media companies that have a significant ownership from foreign adversaries, which includes TikTok, but can technically be applied to any other social media as well. So it's unlikely that they'll start banning social media left and right. However, it is probably possible that it has completely taken away the ability to build a social media site from any businesses in other countries, because there would be little to stop them from being forced to sell to an American company once they begin to operate in America. Granted, as an American, I feel like we should own everything anyway, because the rest of the world is generally worse than us when it comes to freedom, living standard, and just general vibes. So that part isn't a real issue for me. I'd rather an American own something than anyone anywhere else in the world, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna have more in common with another American than anyone anywhere else. What do you guys think about this? Is the ban a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do you think that it's government overreach, or is this the exact type of thing the government is supposed to protect us from? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day, and God bless you.